First of all, we have told you that apparently the older brother was at the attention of the United States of America. Now we know that he was actually, that guy right there, Tamerlan, was actually on 2 watch lists. In March of 2011, the Russians called the FBI and said, you got to do something about it. And then in September of 2011, they contacted the CIA, the Russians did, and said, you should keep an eye on that guy because he has been involved with extremists while he's been traveling over here.
But the thing is, the headline in the story is that he never ended up on the watch list with the CIA, which is really problematic, and more information keeps coming out. Why? We're not exactly sure, and that's going to be the big story moving forward for the next couple of weeks. Here's the list that he was supposed to go on. It's called TIDE, the Terrorist Identities Data Mart Environment. And that is a list that quite possibly would have caught him when he was trying to go over to Russia for that 7-month trip. Or remember when Secretary Napolitano said it pinged when he left, but it didn't ping when he came back into America.
Yeah, the CIA requested that the FBI put him on this list. He never got on that list, but the fact is they knew about it, and the fact is there's still no communication between the CIA and FBI. Number one, I thought the CIA was capable of putting it on themselves. I didn't know the FBI was solely in control of the list and that essentially they're screening for it.
The information that the CIA got, they shared with the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI said, yeah, we already got that information. But what's extraordinary is, you know, we spend billions of dollars on intelligence to stop just this. How often does the country of Russia call up the United States and say, hey, you've got to keep an eye on somebody?
CIA
it just seems like they were in an awful hurry to take him off this, you know, hey, take a look at this guy list.
The CIA warned, he goes, this guy is hanging out with some bad guys in Russia, some serious, dangerous people. This is a year before he would actually kill 3 and wound over 180. Well, actually, it's up to 220 now when you consider people with the hearing problem and the residual issues. And they asked the FBI to put him on that list, and he would eventually not go on the list, leave the country, nothing would ping, he'd come back into the country. Where some very interesting things happen. He told his mom that he's looking to, he would die for his cause, for Islamic, for Islam. And his mom's not even upset about it. In fact, she said doesn't even care for some guys.
I think she's going to be a central figure in this investigation. You know, now apparently both parents are coming back to America. Keep in mind that she may face charges when she gets here because she allegedly stole from Lord and Taylor $1,600 worth of clothes before she left the last time to go back to Russia. But she's going to be central in this case because authorities are now saying that she was the one who was also radicalized and that she was encouraging Tamerlan to become more radicalized, at least more religious, while he was here in America. So you have to wonder, there's other phrases that she's being credited with now saying, for example, you know, Allah Akbar, similar things that we've seen and heard when other terrorist acts have happened.
When asked about her younger son, she said, if they're going to kill him, I don't care. My oldest son is killed, so I don't care. I don't care if my youngest son is going to be killed today. I want the world to hear this, and I don't care if I'm going to get killed too. All I will say is Allah Akbar. Sounds like a wonderful woman. I can't wait to see her again.
Meanwhile, we know a little more about at what point this suspect, even though we pretty much know he's to blame, along with his brother who's dead, was there in that bed, the hospital bed in Boston, right? Okay, so before he was read his rights, he apparently was singing like a canary. The FBI wanted to talk to him as long as they possibly could under the public safety exemption. Then out of nowhere, shows up the federal district judge by the name of Miranda arrived at the hospital along with some prosecutors and public defenders, said, can we talk to him? And he asked him a couple of questions. Next thing you know, read him his rights. The FBI is furious. They wanted to get more from him. 2
officials with knowledge of the FBI, so they're not allowed to speak, but they are, on Capitol Hill said the FBI was against stopping the investigations, questioning and was stunned that the judge and public defenders showed up, feeling valuable intelligence may have been sacrificed as a result. Exactly what we discussed this week.
That's right.
The experts let the FBI do their job. Instead, a judge waltzes in, asks the doctors, is he lucid, is he conscious? When they said, well, yeah, he's in and out, basically just went in there. What was necessary about that?
I thought about you when I read that this morning, Brian, because I know that you've been so upset about the way in which this happened and whether or not he should have been an enemy combatant or Or what was the other phrase?
Yeah.
The public safety clause, where you can, question somebody without reading their Miranda rights or charging them with anything if it has to do with the safety of the public. So more and more information now coming out about how this was all handled. In the meantime, there's a congressman who says that we don't need to know the classified information, but we can judge by the results. Now, he is going to blame the Obama administration for 5 attacks that have happened, or almost attacks, here in the United States since President Obama has taken office. Here's Arkansas Congressman Tom Cotton.
I rise today to express grave doubts about the Obama administration's counterterrorism policies and programs. Counterterrorism is often shrouded in secrecy, as it should be. So let us judge by the results. In barely 4 years in office, 5 jihadists have reached their targets in the United States under Barack Obama.
Okay, and so who are they? Let's go over to the big board. We're talking about the Boston bombers. We're talking about the underwear bomber, Times Square bomber, Fort Hood shooter, and the Little Rock recruiting office shooter as well. Congressman Cotton went on to say, in the over 7 years after 9/11 under George W. Bush, how many terrorists reached their target in the United States? 0. He also says we need to ask, why is the Obama administration failing in its mission to stop terrorism before it reaches its targets in the United States?
Maybe it would help to say Islamic extremists are trying to kill us, and we have to do everything we can to stop them before they kill us. We're going to ask for the moderate Islam community to stand up, those who don't want to, and there's most of them, I hope. They should stand up and squelch and stamp that radical element within them down, because they have the best eyes and ears, they have the best access, they could be our best resources. But if not, if that's not going to happen, what is plan B? Can we at least identify it on a regular basis so we're aware of this, instead of saying a radical or pretending as if this is just a guy who had no job that was wandering around and wanted to make an impact?
I think it's going to be interesting. History will prove, I think, as we look back over the next couple of decades, how the terminology has changed or not changed the war on terror. Remember, this president did not want to call it the war on terror. Instead, it was overseas contingency operations. And yet, we have had more terrorist attacks. So it'll be interesting to see how history looks at this and determines whether or not terminology, change in policies, if that had anything to do long-term with the security of this country.
Meanwhile, let's take you back to